Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning entertainment podcast. On this very episode, we are going to talk about the art of the movie trailer, psychological horror versus gore, and we are going to final that out with our TV Doctor Battle Royale. Let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson. I'll be your host. My other host, John Davenport, Amanda Singh, and Troy Heinrichs could not be here, but we're still going to have an episode. We actually have 2 weeks off because of Labor Day holiday, but we wanted to make sure and leave you guys with something. So I'm going to jump right into it. There are literally 3 topics in this particular episode. The first one, psychological horror versus gore. Which one's more terrifying? Then we're going to talk about the art of the movie trailer, and then we're going to finish it with our TV Doctor Battle Royale. Now, the last 2 topics, we actually have guests, Christina Flores and Stanley Daniel, are both going to be joining us. Stanley is actually a doctor himself for the Doctor Battle Royale, so that makes it a little bit more interesting. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Again, sorry we're taking a couple weeks off, but you need a break sometimes. You know what I mean? We will not be back next week. We will be back on the following week with our 500th episode. We are putting that together as we speak. So we're really looking forward to that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Remember, go to thehollywoodoutsiders.com for reviews, on patreon.com/thehollywoodoutsiders. That's patreon.com/thehollywoodoutsiders. There are bonus episodes already up. All you got to do is join, and you get immediate access to them, and you can support the show as well. It helps pay for the show. So thank you so much for all that do, and let's get into it. Let's start with psychological horror versus gore. This idea spawned from Ken in Chicago on Twitter, so thanks, Ken. We're just giving you a little kudos there. Who asked us which is scarier, body horror or a psychological terror? Essentially, what terrifies you more, losing control of your body or your mind? So we're going to talk about that because that's a fascinating question in terms of what really scares you. So how do you define psychological terror, and what are like a thing or a couple things, not 16 things, that immediately come to mind to explain that for you?
Psychological terror is something I feel like you see them more often in thrillers. That's where you have an individual or individuals who are trying to taunt somebody and mess with their mind. They're making them feel like somebody is there, and then something doesn't happen. And then they think they hear something here, and then nothing happens. This is just an example. And then when they're not expecting it, that's when something happens. And it's just kind of that buildup of tension of them messing with their mind or making them think that things are happening when they're really not. That's the kind of thing that I really get drawn into. And it creates a great deal of tension for me because I'm like, is it real? Is it really happening? Or are they just kind of imagining it? Have they gotten so paranoid that now we're just seeing their paranoia reflected on screen?
Yeah, I like the way you kind of describe that. I would actually try to be a little bit more succinct with it by saying that psychological horror is that thing where you don't actually see the villain. You're actually just spending more time with your protagonist and and seeing how whatever is affecting the protagonist really take them down darker roads. I do enjoy the genre, and like when I think about movies that stand out in this genre for me, I think about like the first 20 minutes of When a Stranger Calls.
Oh God, that's so good.
Yeah,
you don't see anything, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. And the more recently, I think Hereditary did a really good job with it too.
Well, like with the head? Where'd that head go? Rolled over there.
She was asking for it.
She really did. She was kind of begging for it. So you really think that Hereditary is very... Which part of that would you say is the most psychological?
Well, the first 2 acts are primarily psychological.
Yeah, they don't really show a whole lot, do they?
No, they really don't.
Yeah.
And you're going down this road with Toni Collette that you think where she's losing her mind and she's suffering from all these like guilt and whatever, and she starts to see things, and the same thing happens to her son, and then it's not until the final act, and even then it's like the final 10 minutes of the movie where it really loses its mind, and that's when the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with somebody recently, and I was explaining how I felt one of my favorite movies is more of a psychological horror than it is just a horror movie. And the movie's Jaws, which obviously everybody's seen Jaws, right? And it's been talked about probably a lot this summer because it's, summer movie, summer blockbuster, Jaws pops up. But if you really, really think about it, psychological horror is something where it gets in your head, and that's the thing that scares you. And I can't think of a movie that scared me more psychologically than Jaws, because it made me fearful to even get in an ocean. To me, that's when I think psychological, I mean, it not only gets in the characters' heads, it gets in my head. It affects my level of comfortability. And Jaws doesn't really show a ton of gore. There isn't really a lot of actual things that you see until, midway through, really? Most of it is anticipation. It's what happens underneath the water. The scene where the guy swim into the boat and you see the jaws of Jaws, right? Opening up. When you see the jaws of Bruce opening up and then snatching him underwater, that is a horrifying thing to see. And it hits my brain. Even though I don't see the gore of it and I don't actually see much happening, that was psychological to me because I was terrified of water, literally just water, because of that movie. And I was terrified while watching the movie because of things I don't see. You don't even really see the shark until midway through the movie. And I was still scared like the whole time. So to me, that really is a psychological thriller or horror. I think of Silence of the Lambs is an easy one to throw out there because Hannibal Lecter, just his conversations are so unnerving and they get under your skin. They just really, really kind of ripple you in that respect. Candyman is one. Tony Todd just had his voice, for whatever reason, the way that he spoke, his cadence, all of that was really terrifying to me in a way. Like the movie, none of the gore stuff scared me at all. Bees a little bit, but that's a whole nother story. Like anything with bees scares me psychologically. But whenever his speaking and his cadence and everything else, that was just so unnerving to me. Very similar to Hellraiser, Pinhead. The gore never bothered me. Pinhead bothered me. The visual aesthetic, that got in my head. So, I think psychological can mean more than what most people apply it to. To me, it's very much, does it get in my head and scare me? Gore to me is more like I see it. It makes me, and we'll talk more about gore in a second, but psychological is, yes, it's in the characters. It's in their heads. I mean, Gone Girl is a perfect example of a psychological thriller. Like it's very horrifying because we've all dated somebody that crazy. So we all get it. And men and women, on both sides of the coin. And so, those kinds of things can get with you, but it stays with you. And that to me is also a psychological horror of sorts. Anything that stays with you.
Yeah, I would add in Misery, Rosemary's Baby, even Hush.
Oh, because those whacking the legs? Whacking the feet?
Whenever they do something that it's the terror of reality in many ways. And it's not about what I think to your point where you're not actually watching anything physically happen, but you get to watch the reaction of your main character and the fear that they have that someone's watching them. Or someone is so obsessed with him and that increases their paranoia or their fear. And that escalation of emotions, the audience then begins to feel. So, I think to your other point, I think everybody defines psychological horror a little bit differently based on their own fears. Because it's what taps into your mind. Like you said, Jaws was psychologically terrifying for you, whereas maybe something else scares somebody and it literally terrifies them, like 8-legged freaks. Maybe that's a psychological terror for them. I don't know.
I think it counts. I mean, there's different ways you can put it. You can think of it, I think. And if you think of like slasher movies, I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th and any movie where kids get killed at a summer camp. Why? I don't know. I had a bad summer camp experience and it's really none of your business. We're not going to talk about that anymore. But I was happy with a lot of those dispatched victims. But what really, the movies never scare me in terms of the gore. I always find that just funny. But whenever they're running through the woods, that's a real thing. That can freak me out if it's done really well. Blair Witch has nothing gory in it whatsoever. And I know people, Blair Witch is so tame. Shut up. If you saw it when it came out, maybe you're one of those special ones that weren't bothered. But I was scared. I was freaked out in several parts of that movie. And there's nothing gory about it. It is all psychological because it really just messes with your head. John, you saw it in the theater, right? Did you see it? I think you saw it in the theater.
Oh yeah, I definitely saw that one in the theater, and it was like I've never been so afraid of a pile of sticks in my life.
Right, exactly. And a guy looking in the corner, and you're like, oh my God, he's looking in the corner. And, that just seems like such a ridiculous thing, but they did such a good build up to that moment that it pays off completely.
Even the marketing, it's like, those people, it really happened to those people. They're doing press junkets and they're talking to people. No, it's real.
Yeah, that part was weird because I did have friends that said, no, it's real. And I'm like, I literally saw an interview with them. They're fine. No, man. That was before the movie. I'm like, why would they be doing press for a movie that ain't out yet? That's weird. But...
Right. One way or the other, they're doing press after they made it.
One of my favorite scenes in film history is Reservoir Dogs, the whole torture scene. And that is gore, I would say, to, I guess, a very small degree. But none of the gore is what bothers me. It is completely just a person completely incapacitated, which is a personal fear. The fact that you have no control of your life, someone torturing him. And it's more about the dancing around the torture. Like, what's he going to do? What is he going to do to that guy? What is it going to be that he's going to do to this guy? What pain is he going to inflict? That whole leading up to it is very psychological to me. Like that is what freaks me out. Cutting the ear off, that's just a cool movie thing to a cool song. The actual psychological terror of it, to me, which did freak me out when I first watched it, it was very unnerving. I didn't know what he was going to do, and it was really just unnerving to watch in many respects. All right, so let's move on to the gore or bodily injury horror. I guess you can look at it either way, but it's really gore because body parts are hurting, cuts, fingernails being pulled out.
Oh, I was going to say fingernails are my... Ugh.
Yeah. John, where are you at with gore, body injury, horror?
Oh my God. Psychological has its merits. Gore also has its merits depending on how it's done.
Sure.
At this point in cinema, it's one of those things where you can tell the bad and you can tell the good. And sometimes they're both good and sometimes they're both bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you have tons of entrails, that's never scary to me.
Right.
Lots of intestines just laying around. Blah. I'm just holding. Guys looking very dramatic as he's holding his guts. I'm like, he would be dead. This is silly. This is just dumb.
But take out somebody's eye, and I'm like, no, not the eye. God damn it.
Pluck it out with chopsticks.
There is so many movies that I could think of that just do it terribly. But again, it's one of those things that you either get it really like Hostel is one that I can think of that got it done right, and even the sequel where it's like they can't possibly do this any worse. They did, and it's fine. Or the Human Centipede is another one where it's like you can't, you can't make this worse. And they found a way to make it both a bad movie afterwards. Like the two sequels are both bad and worse at the same time as far as scarier.
What really interests me about this conversation and where it took a turn is that you've seen both the sequels to The Human Centipede, but you haven't seen The Greatest Showman.
I still haven't seen that yet.
You took time out of your day to watch a guy sew a mouth onto an ass. Yeah, so spoiler alert, that's what Human Centipede's about. Think about it. But you didn't take the time to watch Rebecca Ferguson dazzle you with a song, or Hugh Jackman do a little dance. That's where you are in your cinema achievements.
See, I was very afraid that watching The Greatest Showman would make me like a little bit happy, and I can't afford to feel that way right now.
Well, now it makes sense. It's all Human Centipede. So keep watching those sequels, and if they keep cranking them out, you'll just watch them all.
Right, because at least it's like par for the course for me.
So disturbing you are. Amanda, where are you on gore?
I like gore. I have no qualms with seeing it on screen. There are some things like fingernails that get under my skin more than others. But it's not something that scares me. And I feel like that's where my defining line is in this question, is if we're talking about what's scary, gore is not scary to me. You know, sometimes it can make you go, ooh and ah and ugh, but it's not something that terrifies me. It's not something that makes me shiver or anything. It's the psychological horror that messes with me. Gore is something that I think is, for whatever reason, it is enjoyable to watch on screen for horror fans.
Isn't that weird? It's
It is
weird,
very
right?
weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about us as people, but a lot of the people that I know that are, you know, really big horror fans are also some of the sweetest people I know and the kindest people. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's,
Like serial killers would be.
yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. And introverts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fantasies being played out on screen.
That's
It's
so you
just-
don't do it. That's so you,
Exactly.
that's Jenny from The Office. That's what that, it's out of my system. I don't have to think about it anymore. Yay, I gotta listen to some true crime so I at least know how to do it correctly.
But it's one of those things where people who don't like horror movies, I feel like they get more creeped out by the gore for whatever reason. You know, if they're not really somebody who watches it, they can handle the psychological portion of it better than they can handle the gore. And I don't know why that is scarier to them. I don't know why gore in general is scary at all. It could be because I grew up with a very clear understanding. You know, I was taught and shown the behind the scenes of scary movies and how it's all not real. So maybe in the back of my mind, I just recognize this isn't real. But I guess that's my question back to you guys is, what makes it scary for people? Why is, you know, seeing a slasher flick like Friday the 13th, why does that scare someone?
It's you're not in control of the situation, I think, is a part of it. I think very much a part of it is, this is a situation where I live my life and I'm in control of everything I do, but here's a situation where a madman is going to kill me and he's going to cut off a part of my person and I can't do anything about it. So there's that fear. Like if you go back to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's a lot of gore in there. A lot of it's implied, but there's still a lot of gore in it. And that is one where it terrified me because it was so realistic. It was so visceral. And it really felt like I'm not going to escape this, you know, in your mind. And the horror, every time you saw somebody get killed, it really felt like, oh my God, this could happen to me. And then you're walking around and you're like, So just the idea of a killer on the loose and you have no control over the situation, and then seeing what they do to the people that they're attacking, I think that sits with a lot of people. I mean, there's definitely horror movies that have worked that magic with me in terms of the terror of it all.
Well, yeah, jumping on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, some of those kills were just like pure brutality. And the thing that really gets you about that is that it's not some sort of like demon killer or like ghost monster thing. Those are real people. Those are real people that you will find in the middle of nowhere, you know, on you know, I drive down these streets in North Carolina lately and I'm like, hey, that's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. Look at everything that's in the front yard. There's like 15 cars. I can't imagine that house needs 15 cars of all those different years. And then the way some of those deaths happen, like especially in the remake, I don't know why it hit me harder in the remake than in the original, but that first kill where he, you know, Leatherface slides that door open, brains a dude, and he's just on the ground and his whole body is convulsing from the head trauma.
Yeah.
You know, that, like, I imagine that's exactly what it would be like with that much head trauma from a freaking sledgehammer. It wouldn't be like, boom, your body's still, you can, there's got to be something firing in what's left of his brain to be doing all that. And it's got to be excruciating. And it's just, ugh.
Yeah, there's a movie I love, and I think I've mentioned it once or twice before, but not often because it makes me embarrassed to admit it. But it's a movie called Relentless. It stars Judd Nelson, where he's a serial killer, and whenever he kills somebody, and yes, I said Judd Nelson, goddammit, and he's very good in that one particular role. But the way that he kills people is that he basically finds them wherever they are, he puts the weapon in their hand and then he makes them do it to themselves. And so you basically watch the knife go in, you watch them choke themselves. It's very visceral in that way. And for whatever reason, that one always kind of got me. That was terrifying to me because you're watching a killer inflict pain to your own person without your control. It's a lot of it to me is like the lack of self-control and the damage that the weapons and the person are doing to your body. And that's just one example where it really got to me. And that wasn't so much psychological because the knife is going in the woman's chest. And I'm like, oh my God, if somebody came up behind me, they could make me do that. Oh my God, that's terrifying. It just gets in your head.
I think there is an element of psychological horror though, because it's somebody who's removing your ability to choose, your ability to actually decide what's going to happen. And they've taken that control from you in a much different way than if they were to just come up to you and stab you. Because you're sitting there in that individual's shoes as a viewer. You're sitting in that person's shoes, the innocent person, and you're having to watch them make that choice. And so you can feel that terror that they must be thinking and feeling, and how much fear they must have and what they have to go through to get to the point where they do what this killer is asking of you. Killer by association or whatever. Yeah,
and to jump off that, another part of it, another piece of it, kind of connecting the tissue on that, is that we're all very familiar with our own bodies, right? Like a lot of movies or television, when you're watching them, it's all fantasy. You're not a really cool cop. You're not a really great doctor. You're not a really cool lawyer. But whenever you see pain inflicted on a person, pulling a fingernail, we've all done that, or we've almost done it, or we thought about doing it, and what it would feel like. Somebody stubs a toe in a movie, that can really create a visceral reaction because we all know exactly what that feels like. A lot of it is we have fingers and toes and eyeballs and ears and noses and hearts. Yeah, everything else that can, and we know that would hurt. That would really hurt. So if we see it on screen, oftentimes it can correlate in our brain and be like, if that would really hurt if that was me. It really hurt to lose an eyeball. I think that would be very painful. So I can envision the loss of that eye.
Or, if you get like a lead pipe shoved up your bum hole because it's a revenge film, you can think, ouch, this probably wouldn't feel good.
Depends on your perspective.
Hey, what you do on your time is your business.
Exactly. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, because there's a lot of things that I think when you think bodily injury and gore, like a lot of gore, subtle gore gets me way more than anything. Like I was talking about entrails where somebody's just holding their guts. That never does anything. I'm just like, it's so ridiculous. If you're watching Friday the 13th and you get a crazy kill, that's more just fun to watch than it is. For whatever reason, don't judge me. It's just more fun to watch than anything else. But then there are other ones where it's just very, I don't know, just gets under your skin. I don't know. You watch Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th Part 2 is the only one that really, really gets under my skin. And it's just more because of how it's shot. But a lot of the kills are more intense, I think, because of just a lot of the kills just feel more personal in nature. So when there is something gory, it feels like that could be me. I could be in that situation. There's one where he kills a guy in a wheelchair. It's really kind of a sad scene. And the same token, the gore really impacted the whole shot. A lot of times that can really impact a shot. If you do it right. If you overdo it, makes the movie look cheesy. Sleepaway Camp. Just saying. All right. So we covered psychological, we covered gore. So that's the question. What's scarier for you? I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, but you got to pick one. What scares you more and why?
For me, for sure, psychological. The gory horror is more just like usually I think you put it nicely, where it's fun. You like, hoorah, the crazier the gore, the kill, you're just like, whoa, that's creative and that's crazy and that's fun.
Yeah, Miles Teller should be in more horror movies.
Yeah, psychological actually scares me, and that's where my line is. Gore does not scare me. Psychological actually affects me, and so it's got to be the winner.
I'm gonna have to agree that psychological will scare me more. However, gore is a lot more fun to see in the theater.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that makes sense, but which is scarier though? Like you're saying psychological.
Which is scary or psychological, of course. So you mentioned Gone Girl, and I remember after I saw Gone Girl, I didn't sleep well for like a month and a half, 2 months, because I was like, I was having flashbacks.
Who am I living with?
Yeah.
It's more like you
So,
start reflecting on your past, right? And you're like, oh, they could come back.
Yeah.
They can always come back.
I'm telling you. I thought that movie was a documentary for a while.
Yeah.
I'm just like, are we sure? Are we sure this is fiction? Ben Affleck might be in a documentary. I don't know. Same way. I mean, it usually psychological will get me more, but on the same token, man, I don't get. Here's what I would say. I think when I was younger, up until probably like my mid-20s, psychological really got me way more than anything else. But as I've gotten older, anything that's a real painful death or infliction of pain, you pull a fingernail off of anybody, I can't look at it. I legitimately can't look at it. I can't watch a bee sting. Like when somebody gets stung a lot with bees because I'm phobic of bees. So, I mean, there are certain things that are terrifying to me. And fingernails getting pulled off or toenails getting pulled off is by far the worst thing I can watch. Like that scares me more than anything Hannibal Lecter could ever say, because I can walk away from words. I can't walk away from somebody pulling my fingernails off.
Well, you could, but it would hurt even more.
That would be kind of adding to the problem, I guess. Yeah.
to help with that, like, we're of a certain age. When you trip over a branch, that's going to affect you for a while.
Yeah.
And all you're thinking about is like, wow, that bodily injury that's happening to that poor person is going to be the rest of their life. They're going to be feeling that.
I've been that poor person. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So I'm totally with you on that.
Can I add
It's
in
an
an
age thing.
additional category of fear, which is probably my most significant fear factor?
No, that's how you would
Well,
do it. We get an extra
going
episode
to.
out of that. We milk it, but you can mention it, but you're not
I'll
going to
mention it.
Okay.
Supernatural, especially as I've gotten older, things with ghosts
Oh,
or,
my God.
creepy things like that. For whatever reason, they legitimately terrify me. It is so hard for me to sit through something when it's supernaturally. And it's weird because I'm very agnostic. It's not like I, pray to a higher power or, genuinely believe in ghosts. I think the possibilities for anything exist. But you would think that I would have that deep fear if I truly believed in it and that Satan was sending ghosts back to Earth to terrorize people as demons. But that's not where I'm at. It's just for whatever reason, man, if I see a ghost and they creep up behind somebody, I might pee my pants.
See, I am so not scared of anything ghost related. For whatever reason, The Conjuring got me a couple times. So, I mean, there's some good jump scares and stuff like that. But my God, I don't believe in ghosts. So I just don't get scared in ghost movies. And if I had a ghost, I'd probably just walk around naked just to make him leave. I mean, there's nothing really about ghosts that do anything for me. Nothing. So, but that would maybe fall under psychological, because I think you got to be crazy to believe in ghosts. Ha!
That's rude.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to be crazy, but I just don't. I don't. So psychological seems like the win. Although I do think I'm probably more affected by gore nowadays, just because of the fingernails thing. It's really a problem. If I see it, man, it really ruins my day. I will actually cut my fingernails. I always cut my fingernails. Like after I see a scene like that, I will go cut them because I'm just like, nah. No, that's going to have to go. I don't want it ripped off on accident.
There's only so many times you can watch America's Funniest Home Video to see some poor dad get hit in the nards for you to be like, okay, that's enough of that.
Exactly. This is not funny anymore because I know it's me. The art of the trailer. So we're going to talk about movie trailers. And, typically this is where movie reviews would be. But like I said, we're saving Army of the Dead for last because we want to talk about some of the spoilers in it after we kind of discuss it without spoilers. So we're saving that to the end just so you don't have to be weird with the show and start it in different spots. Movie trailers. Chrissy kind of talked about it a little bit.
in terms of why you picked this topic. So what's your stance on trailers in general? Are you a fan of movie trailers? Do you like them, love them, loathe them? Where are you?
I'm in the middle. So I like the trailer teasers, but do try to stay away from the full-length trailers because I've had too many movies spoiled when they make them, like 2.5 to 3.5 minutes long.
2.5 usually, yep.
At that point, I feel like you're giving too much away. So keep it to that minute and a half. That's the sweet spot. And those are the ones that I'm more inclined to look forward to.
I'm kind of on board with that. I love the experience of movie trailers or teasers, but if you're going to do a full-length trailer, it's gotten progressively worse, I feel like, over the last, handful of years, where it's not so much trying to engage you with, getting you excited or getting you interested. It's them showing way too many cool moments that when they come up, you're like, oh, this is the scene from the trailer. And I can recall it, and you recognize the moment, and they give you the whole moment. They don't shy away from it. And we'll talk about what makes them really great and really bad, but I think when they do it right, then I absolutely love them. I look forward to them sitting in a movie theater ahead of the movie I'm intending to watch. Like Christina said earlier, you kind of start making a checklist of what you like and what you're looking forward to. And I've gotten to the point where if a movie trailer ruins something that I feel like would be really great to see in the movie, like a moment, then I'm less inclined to watch your movie at all, even if I was previously interested.
I love movie trailers. Like, that used to be my favorite part of the movie until they made them 45 minutes before the movie started. And then that kind of sucked because now you got people rolling in late and everything else, and it's distracting. And it's like, well, I got plenty of time to pee. Well, I don't want to have plenty of time to pee. I want the movie to start. Unfortunately, I think there's too many of them. But I do love trailers. The thing I don't love right now, and what's been the factor for years, I think, is what you guys already talked about, which is too much information in the movie trailer, spoiling the big moments, telling you the ending a couple times. Like, I've seen the actual endings in movie trailers, and I'm like, you see the movie and you're like, what the hell? Like, because the whole movie, you're going to see that scene, and then it's at the end. Oh, you sons of bitches. But it's this thing where you see a movie and it's the same freaking trailer as every movie. So I'm seeing roughly the same 10 movies over and over and over and over and over, and the movie trailers. And that's annoying to me. I would love it if I saw a bunch of other stuff, but you never see independent movie trailers. You don't see a ton of mid-range, smaller budget movie trailers. You only see those online. And in the theater, I feel like all they're showing are the big budget blockbuster, Marvel, just, Lord of the Rings-ish, Star Wars, those kinds of films. And I'm not getting anything else for anything with a little bit of a different leaning or arc or genre. And that's what I want. If I'm going to sit there and watch 10 movie trailers, I want 7 of them to be of completely different genres. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. So last night, I think I ended up spending about 3 hours watching movie trailers to prepare for this episode.
Wow.
And I didn't have anything else to do, and the kids were in bed, so that's what I did. I watched movie trailers.
This is dedication.
I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying I'm kind of feeling bad that I didn't do that.
Well, no, it's okay. You're on this show all of the time, and I'm not, so I didn't want to come on not prepared.
I respect that.
And when I was searching YouTube for, best trailers of, whatever decade or year, you get almost all action trailers as the best trailers. Mm-hmm. And it's the same genre, it's the same style, and you're right. You're not seeing those indie trailers. And I really appreciate the indie trailers when I'm on the streaming services, because I'll read a synopsis. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. And I'll watch a trailer, and that'll either say, yes, I'm going to click play, or no, I'm not. And that's when I really look forward to watching the trailers when I'm not in the theater, is really for those kind of deal breaker decisions on whether or not, is it one that I'll actually rent, or is it one that I'm just going to wait until it's available in one of the dozens of streaming services I subscribe to at this point.
Oh yeah, where you watch the trailer when you're trying to debate, do I really want to watch that? Or you're scrolling through your Netflix category, your Prime category, and you're like, that looks good, but let me see this trailer. And then you're like, no, that wasn't good enough. It didn't jazz me up enough. Those kinds of decisions. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Or in a theater, obviously. I'm just speaking that there's a lot of movies on streaming now as well.
The other times that I watch trailers when I'm not in the theater is if someone makes a movie recommendation that isn't on my circle of trust, people who know me.
Somebody's throwing a dart. Nah, Christy, I swear you're going to love it. Oh, how do you know that? Just by looking at you, I can tell.
So, there's times when I'll listen to the podcast or, coworkers or people talking about movies online that, Amanda, you were actually talking about this on last week's episode, where, you'll have people that'll post and you're like, there's no way I'd even like that movie, but now I need to check it out to see if I should actually watch it. So that's the time that I'll watch the trailers. Otherwise, I'd really try to stay away from watching them unless I'm in the theater. I kind of miss VHS tapes though, because you were kind of stuck watching them unless you wanted to hit rewind or fast forward and watch it.
Yeah.
And I miss that and then the early DVDs where you couldn't, skip them either. Because then I was forced to see what I didn't have the ability to know had been released because it was different. We didn't have social media. We didn't have your phone telling you, hey, watch this new thing that just came out. And so there was far more appreciation probably, 20 years ago than there is now for trailers.
Well, and I don't think, honestly, a lot of trailers translate well to a mobile device. I know Eternals just came out today, right? And so I watched it originally on my phone, the new Marvel movie, because of course we're going to have that trailer. It'll be in every movie I see for the next 6 months. But when I looked at it on my phone, I was not I'm still not really that impressed, but it's much better on a TV, a big TV / movie screen than it is on a mobile device. On a mobile device, it just didn't look like anything special at all. And I really think the size of the screen is going to make a difference on some of these too, because they're meant to be seen in a theater to begin with.
So interesting you bring up Eternals, because we had some comments on our thread about, you don't need trailers for blockbuster franchises and all of that. But for the Marvel spinoffs, for sure, I want a trailer because I don't want to invest a lot of my life in, the best way to make an equivalent is for a bunch of side quests. I like the main stories. And if you're going to give me, WandaVision, or if you're going to give me Eternals, you better make it worth my while. And so, yes, I'm going to watch that trailer. Otherwise, I'm not going to invest my time because I really don't have enough time in my life to sit here and watch every single thing that came from the overarching set of stories.
That's a good point.
I respect that. So many people would just see every Marvel movie, every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. And I got to be honest, there's some I'm just not interested in seeing. And I don't think it makes you a bad fan because you don't want to see everything. It's just, we have other stuff. There's lots of stuff and things to do. There's lives happening. We finally got our lives back recently.
What?
So,
we have lives? You're kidding.
Yeah, well, I think they said we can if you do certain things. I don't know what the rules are, but I'm good, I think. Maybe. So what makes for a bad trailer in your opinion? So you're sitting down, you're watching the movie, and the trailers come up, and you're like, that's a bad trailer. And do you know it when the trailer comes out, or do you only know it when the movie comes out and you see the movie that the trailer led you to?
This is the question I've been waiting for. I know for the most part when a trailer is bad because and that's not always the case, but usually if I get done with the trailer and I'm like, okay, that was something that I didn't want to see. So for example, there was Thor Ragnarok. And they gave away the whole Hulk moment. Oh, the reaction, everything. And this is actually one of Nate Bruce's comments in our Facebook group. He said that he loathed them giving too much away and being too long. And that moment in particular seemed to bother him as well.
Destroyed that moment. Completely, gave the entirety of that moment away.
Yeah, and it wasn't... And there's a difference between something being a spoiler and something in a trailer spoiling something. And this was something where it wasn't necessarily a spoiler, but it definitely spoiled the moment. And when you give too much away, or I've seen a lot of trailers in the past, probably 2 years, where I'm getting I'm getting essentially the entire story from first to third act. And I can tell you everything that's going to happen because you just told me it in the trailer. And I should not be able to figure that much out in 2 minutes. You don't have to tell me everything that happens. A really good trailer doesn't need to do that. A good movie shouldn't have to do that. But on the other hand, sometimes trailers are too good and they end up being bad in that way. For example, a lot of comedy trailers give all of the best comedy moments away in the trailer to entice you, but then that's all there is left of the movie. And so those moments you've already experienced, and it's kind of like, well, that was a drag. And so while the trailer was something great when you first saw it, it ends up becoming a disappointment because you're like, okay, well, I guess that's all there was to this movie. So you did get me, but like I didn't want to be got.
So my question for you is, does that mean the trailer was bad or does that mean the movie was bad?
Oh, you know what? That is a good point. Probably
because the trailer got you. The trailer got you in, so the trailer was good.
That's true.
So
That's true.
my example that I had for that was The Nun. The trailer was good.
Oh.
Aaron, I know you don't like the Conjuring franchise mostly.
They all sucked outside of the Conjuring movies, in my opinion. But I'm with you. That was a good trailer because that was the best part of that Conjuring movie was The Nun. So that trailer was really creepy, really effective.
It got my butt in the seat. I saw the trailer, told my two bigger kids, I was like, we gotta go and see this. We went and saw it as soon as we could. I was so disappointed. Now, my kids and I all have different opinions on whether or not the movie was actually good or not. I didn't like it. I felt like the scariest parts I saw in that trailer, and it was just too slow, and there just wasn't as much going on, and it's my least favorite in the entire Conjuring franchise. But it accomplished what it set out to accomplish. I bought that ticket. We saw it in the theater. There you go.
Yeah.
Christy, what's funny is they do a great job in that, and Warner Brothers really does a great job with constructing trailers and making them fabulous, I think. Because I saw all 3 Annabelles and I didn't like any of them. But I kept going back because I kept believing this one was going to be better because the trailers were that good. They get me 3 times. So really that's on me, but kudos to their marketing department.
For sure. I liked the middle Annabelle, and the other 2 just were okay. So, but the origin story, we're in that house, like in the middle of nowhere with all the young girls and the mom was in the sick bed. I really did enjoy that one. And the doll just freaks me out completely. So.
Well, back on track. For me, what makes a bad one is giving too much away. I think we can all agree on that, right? That just figure out how to do it smarter. I mean, there's one that I always kind of reference. And I mean, well, it really goes to being a great one, but I'm going to just talk about it here because this is kind of how you make a trailer without giving everything away. As if you guys ever see the trailer for Cloverfield?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the movie I'm not a fan of. I don't really like the movie. It's fine. Like I don't dislike it. It's fine. But the trailer doesn't show you the monster at any point. It just gives you the illusion of there being a monster and everything that is going on. And even does this like Escape from New York total homage where the Statue of Liberty head rolls down the street. It's a fantastic trailer. And I know we're talking about bad ones, but I'm just trying to show you can do it where you don't give away the best moments because the monster is the best moments of those, best moment of those movies, that movie. But the trailer doesn't give any of that away. You have no idea what that thing looks like and you still want to see it. It got my ass in a seat where I feel like too often studios think if they tell you everything and give you the sexiest moments that are available, that's what's going to get you in a seat. And that isn't always what works for me. I actually want to show up and get more than what I bargained for, not exactly what I bargained for.
You know what I've found to be my favorite type of trailer is the ones that typically make very little sense. Like I'm not really extracting a lot of story points from it, but I see moments that look cool. There's a cool shot here, or there's a funny line here, and there's just this snippet with a great soundtrack and or music or score or something. And the compilation is less about the story. I mean, you have an idea of it, but all you need is the base. And then they just cut together different moments that look cool, especially for an action trailer. I don't need to see all of this stuff. I mean, Fast and Furious is a great one. Sometimes they go too far, but when they just cut all of those fast moments where the car's doing this and then they're doing that and then they're shooting at this, you have no idea what the context is of those moments, which is exactly what I want. I don't want to know why they're doing what they're doing, what the motive or intent is, or the outcome. I just want to see the initial happening that gets me excited. And same with horror movies. You brought up The Nun, and I think that was, if I can recall the trailer right, that was one where it shook everybody in the theater when she popped up.
Yeah, she
because it was super creepy.
Yeah.
But you had no real context about what was happening, and every time it kept popping up, you'd get freaked out by it. And that was what was exciting about it. So there's definitely a way to build tension and thrill and scare in your audiences without telling them what's going to happen. And that's the biggest thing that some of these marketing developers, I don't know if that's the right title for whoever's creating these trailers, but that they're missing. And they're just going to, let's just, I don't know, this is a really good 30-second scene. We'll just throw the whole scene in here? What? No.
So last night, I was looking at trailers for movies that I absolutely loved to see if I still would like the trailer and if it spoiled everything. And one of the movies that stood out, and I don't even remember now if I saw the trailer before I watched the movie. I don't think I did, which I'm glad because it would have ruined it for me. But it was The Departed. I love that movie so much. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it. But when I watched the trailer last night, I would put this in the bad trailer category because going back and watching it after watching the movie, I was like, wow, I almost got every memorable moment, even though I couldn't necessarily maybe put every single detail together why it was like impactful. But, well, I hope everyone's seen it at this point, but it even shows Martin Sheen's body falling off the building. And I remember the first time I watched that movie, I was like, holy crap, I can't believe that happened. And had I seen the trailer, I don't know if I would have been as blown away by that experience as I was the first time I watched it. I don't think I'd love that movie as much as I do today.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's what I think sometimes studios miss. You know, I'm a big proponent of surprises. If you have a surprise in a movie, the movie doesn't work unless it would work no matter if you were surprised or not, right? I'm a big fan of that argument. So if you have a big reveal and the reveal is still dumb, it's not going to matter because the movie's still going to suck. But if it's a big surprise, plus it works in the context of the movie, it's going to work on rewatches and whatnot. On the same token, I really feel strongly that in terms of a surprise, if you do get that big surprise, the muscle memory will stay with you. So if it's genuinely not spoiled for you the first time you watch the movie and you get that surprise, like every time you watch it, you'll still get a tinge of that excitement because of that muscle memory the first time you saw it. It reminds you of the first time you saw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I find it very important to just keep those big surprises at bay. And there's no reason to ruin your frickin' movie by showing all your cards. You know, you can't play poker if you show your hand. You just can't win. You know what I mean? It's the same concept. Yeah, that's a cool analogy. I'm going to write that down. All right. Okay, now we know.
You could still win if you were dealt 4 aces. I'm just saying.
All right. Somebody's always got to ruin everything. So now we know what ruins a trailer and an analogy. What makes for a great one? What makes for a great trailer?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about it so far. Mm-hmm. But I think you need to establish the atmosphere of the movie. So if you have a unique cinematic style for the movie, capture that in the trailer. As long as you don't think it's going to be a turnoff. If it's too unique, people might not want to. But now I watched too many. But I saw a few last night where the films were just a bit different with how they shot it, like Rock and Rolla.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have the trailer that aligns with the style of how they're filming it, it makes sense. It helps you set the expectation of what you're going to be watching when you go see it in the theater. I do like it when they establish who the main character of the movie is and slightly what their plight is about. So, the first one that comes to mind for me is The Wolf of Wall Street. So I knew nothing about the story or who this man was or all the controversy around him. Mm-hmm. And when I watched that trailer the first time, I knew I wanted to watch it. I knew I couldn't watch it with my children, but I knew that I wanted to watch it. And, you know, it had a good soundtrack, which was my next point, and it established who this character is. And it was like Amanda said, it was a montage of a whole bunch of different scenes from the movie, but you didn't really make sense of what the heck was going on. Just that you knew you wanted to see what all the madness was about. And then I'm a pretty emotional person. So, when like I watched the trailer for A Dog's Journey, I never did end up getting back to go watch it just because I had too many other movies I wanted to see that year. But I cried. I remember crying, and it was that memorable, to stick with me that I would still say that they pulled it off well.
I like what you were talking about, basically like creating a mood. That's an interesting way, because I remember Pulp Fiction's original trailer had Majaloo, however you say that. I think it was Dick and Jane. The song, you know, the whole song from Pulp Fiction, that played over the trailer amidst little bits of conversation that created an entire mood for that movie. And at that point, nobody had any idea what this kind of style or vision or who Tarantino was or anything else. So it looked like the weirdest thing you've ever seen. But because they did that, a semblance of mood, that creating its own specific atmosphere, it made everybody that saw that trailer go, I gotta see what the this is, you know? And it's too rare that trailers like that are made anymore.
Well, I feel like Tarantino and Guy Ritchie are two prime examples of that, going back to Christy's original first point. Because when I think of a unique directing style, and I think about a trailer that equally represents that uniqueness without deterring the audience who may not naturally gravitate towards it, those are the two that I instinctively think of. Guy Ritchie has his is a little bit different than Tarantino, where Tarantino focuses a lot on the script and the screenplay, and Guy Ritchie focuses a lot about what you see on the screen. But I get that from both of their trailers, and then I get that during the movie. And so it's almost like a brand of the director themselves.
So let's discuss the most rewarding trailers you can remember and why they connected with you. Round, and we'll just go around.
My first one is my favorite.
Okay.
And that is the Scream trailer. It's become iconic, and that initial moment that you see in the trailer of Drew Barrymore answering the phone and he asks, what's your favorite scary movie? I mean, that just set the stage for the entire film, for the entire franchise. And it's still the scene in the movie, one of them, but it's definitely one of the most impactful in the film still somehow. Because you don't have all of the context, but you have the underlying creep factor built into it.
I remember the trailer. I haven't seen the movie.
I'm sorry, what? What?
I remember the trailer, but I haven't seen the movie. There you go.
Christy.
Well, that's just disappointing.
That's on your list.
I was a very busy teenager.
Do you have eight hours that are free? Because we got time. We'll sit down and we'll watch all 4 Screams with you before the 5th one comes out, so you're ready to go.
Oh my God, I absolutely will.
Okay. And I also owe Amanda, Fast 4 and Beyond. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scream is the first one. I want to know if anybody saw Phantom Menace, the trailer when it first came out. That's one that I would throw on my list, because it's very much, I remember when it came out and we hadn't had Star Wars in many a decade. This was the resurgence of Star Wars. And even though the movie definitely did not live up to the hype of the trailer for me personally, and I think for many, the trailer itself brought back every single ounce of nostalgia and goodwill and just love for the property that I think was available. Like, it's probably one of my favorite Star Wars memories, and it wasn't even one of the Star Wars movies. It was just a trailer. It was just seeing that in a theater with my friends and family and stuff, and just seeing everybody just lose it in a theater because holy shit, we're getting another Star Wars movie. We hadn't seen it, and Darth Maul looks so badass, and he's like, why does he look like a checkerboard? Who cares? It's badass. Why has he got horns? Who cares? It's badass. Why is there so much mist and fog? And is that Jar Jar? We don't know who that is yet, but we know we're going to hate him later.
Don't judge him.
Yeah. It's one of the best trailers, I think, of all time. I know it's one of the most, at the time, it was like the most viewed of all time. But it's just one of those that even though the movie does not live up to that hype, I'll always be grateful for the memory that it gave me, because it really brought back my love for Star Wars, which had died by that point. Like I was just over Star Wars, had no interest. So that's one that I would say really stands out for me. Christy?
One of them that stands out to me, that was more recent, was Alita Battle Angel. So the first time I watched it, I got goosebumps because I was really excited that it was just kind of something new. I didn't know that it was actually based on anything, but just seeing, humanity and technology being combined together, with a strong female character, it just pulled me in, and I just knew that I had to see it. So, when I was thinking about this, I was trying to think, what are the trailers recently that made me watch and wait for that movie to come out? And that was one of the top on my list.
That's good. That's a really good movie, too. I mean, I don't think it gets much love these days, but it was one where I wanted a sequel for it.
I really wish they would have made a sequel. I was really disappointed when they didn't make one.
Me too. I really enjoyed it. So my next one is one that I think set the stage for James Gunn in general as a filmmaker, and also the tone for the movies that went beyond that and the entire film itself, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. The soundtrack, the intro, and honestly, both Volume 1 and Volume 2, they were just so unique and fun and lively, and they played on the characters without playing too much on the story of the film. And it's really hard to beat a trailer that gets you invigorated for the film because of the soundtrack that it uses. Anytime someone uses music that I'm inclined to dance to or move to or sing to or anything like that, or even just nod my head to the music, I'm invested. That's
the Bunch of A-Holes trailer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. Slither's a really good trailer too, speaking of James Gunn. That's a fun trailer.
I don't think I've seen the trailer for that one.
Oh yeah, it's fun. Very much a throwback to old trailers. But yeah, Guardians, that was a hard movie to sell too, and it really, really worked. I mean, it got people really jazzed and created a mood, like Christy was talking about. It really created a mood and an energy and a very specific kind of family and film and tone, which was hard to sell in one trailer, and they managed to do it.
The next trailer I want to mention is the trailer for Yesterday.
Oh,
so
that's a great
one.
Yeah.
It was an amazing movie, and this is yet another one that it got me amped. I was like, wait, the world forgot who the Beatles were? Okay, I have to see how they're even going to pull this off, right? And I watched the trailer again before we started recording this evening, and again, they didn't spoil it. You had to see it and figure out, and it was so much more magical watching it. But the magic was in the trailer, and they didn't give it all away. And so,
no, they didn't. Yeah.
I just remember being really excited and then texting Dominic as soon as I was out of the theater saying, hey dude, I just saw this trailer and we absolutely have to go and see this because he loves the Beatles. So, I think that's another thing that I love about watching the trailers, by the way, is when I watch a trailer and it makes me think, oh, I have to watch this movie with this person. They're going to love it. Or this is going to be a great experience to share together. Yeah, that was one of them.
I liked that the trailer blended multiple Beatles songs based on like the moment in the movie. So you got glimpses of it from this point where he's performing, Come Together, and then it's just going to move through and Hey Jude, and it gives you a little bit of the song here and there, but not like a full performance. And that was really fun because it felt like you really understood how important the Beatles are to this character.
Mm-hmm.
It was a magical trailer and movie.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very unique.
Yeah, more people should see that. Speaking of unique, Spider-Man. Oh, I'm just kidding. There's like 14 of
Which
them.
one?
Well,
Pre-Uncle Ben or post-Uncle Ben?
this one required Uncle Ben because he's a very important part of Spider-Man's story, unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which forgets that he exists. It's a whole thing we don't need to get into. But there was the original teaser trailer was pulled because, well, I'll explain why in a second. But the original one, this teaser trailer, it had this slick bank robbery that happens, and then they escape in a helicopter. But then all of a sudden the helicopter is snagged by webbing, pulled back, and then you see that the helicopter is now stuck in this huge spider web between the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center. So, and then the camera just pulls back, and then you cut to Spider-Man zipping around New York. And, you really have to understand, like, as a lifelong Spider-Man fan, I had never seen this before. I had never seen Spider-Man zipping through the city live. I mean, I've seen the cartoon, I've seen comics. I grew up reading the comics. And Nicholas Hammond in the 70s, which all he did was walk, horizontal, and they just turned the camera vertical. But I'd never seen an actual shot of where it looked like Spider-Man was zipping around the city. And here it was in this freaking teaser trailer. Sadly, obviously 9/11 happened, so they had to pull that trailer, and you never saw it anywhere else again. You can find it on YouTube now. But I got so psyched from that trailer, so jazzed to finally see my entire childhood coming to the screen. And Sam Raimi, one of my favorite directors, is doing it. And then, wow, they got this freaking helicopter in the web, and kept waiting for that scene to be in the movie, which I believe was originally supposed to be in the movie, but obviously for obvious reasons that didn't happen. But it's a great teaser trailer. You can go find it on YouTube. Seriously, it's just great, especially for the time, to get you psyched to see Spider-Man for the first time ever.
Can I mention how annoyed I get when a trailer has a moment that the film doesn't, especially if it's like a funny or really cool moment?
Oh, yeah.
And then the movie happens and I'm like, wait a second. Half the reason I even came to see this is not even in here. Like, they just didn't include it. It got, pulled onto the scrap floor.
And the studio heads don't care because they're back there like Scrooge McDuck, just counting your money like, got it. Got it.
That's part of why, one of many reasons why I wouldn't watch any of the trailers for any of the Avengers movies. When didn't I win Endgame from you?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. And when you were like, I hope you enjoy it, I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about it. You're like, wait, what? I seriously tried to go as dark as I possibly could because I didn't want it spoiled, and I just didn't want a chance of seeing someone in the trailer that didn't end up making it into the movie and being really disappointed.
Yeah, that must have been one hell of an experience to go into that without any knowledge or
I don't know how
trailer
you
experience.
God bless America. The fact that you could dodge the internet and everything else and still, like, I could see not getting spoiled because I wasn't spoiled on the big moments either. But there's so much out there. Like, how do you avoid it all?
Scroll fast.
All right. Scroll fast. Got it. Locked and loaded. Amanda, any other trailers you want to mention?
Now.
I have a number left. So my next one is the sequel is actually coming out this week, which depends on when you listen to it. It might not even be that week anymore. A Quiet Place. I was shocked at how well they pulled the trailer off, no less how well they pulled the movie off. But watching that trailer in theaters, and they build that tension of silence when you're watching it, and then, somebody steps on a leaf or something, and then the trailer kind of moves to the next moment where it's like tension, and now there's like faster paced music, and they're running and things like that. And I just thought, man, this is going to be brilliant. Like, this is going to be a really smart movie if they pull it off. And I was not disappointed in what I was given. I somehow, even though I was incredibly impressed by what I saw in the trailer, was more impressed by the film itself, which is really, really rare where I'm impressed by one and still the movie surpasses that.
So A Quiet Place has a special place in my heart. I I don't think I saw this trailer in the theater. I think I saw it at home. And I'm pretty sure one of the deaf and hard of hearing support groups that I'm in on Facebook is where I found out about the movie. And you should have seen those community groups just explode. Oh my goodness, there's a girl signing in a movie, and it's a blockbuster movie. Additionally, it was during the time that we were going through the first cochlear implant process for my son. So he was stoked about it. I was like, Edmund, you gotta watch this. Look, there's a movie, there's a little girl, she's signing, look, she's just like you. And so during one of our visits to Chicago, where we had to go see the doctor right before a surgery, the movie was released. And so we went to one of the fancier AMCs with a recliner chair, had dinner, you know, the snacks all brought to us in our seats. He just was blown away by this experience. He'd never had one like that before. And so the trailer brought all of that special moment that will always be in our memories, all to be able to happen.
That's a really cool memory that you have attached to it.
And we're going through the second cochlear implant surgery, same ear, unfortunately, but we're going through it again, and the movie's coming out this week. So
Are they timing these releases to your surgeries?
Right?
apparently, but it just works so well. So I'm so excited. I can't wait for him to see this movie.
Like Krasinski's just sitting around. We're going to delay this till next year. Hang on. I think the surgery's going to happen next year. Guys, just wait it out. So she has this beautiful story to tell, and she can refer to John Krasinski. Christina, do you have another one?
So have you seen the movie Side Effects?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was one of those,
I don't remember the trailer at all, though.
the trailer is why I ended up watching it. It was a date night at home with my ex-husband now.
So that movie didn't go well, huh?
No, the movie was fantastic. It has no indication of how that all went down. But it was another one of those moments where I rented the movie. So I spent money for the date night because I watched the trailer. And I love psychological thrillers. They're probably one of my favorite movie genres. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that combined with it talking about mental illness, it was fascinating, and I just had to watch it.
I don't remember the trailer either, but I remember being excited to see the movie, and I, as terrible as my memory is, can somehow go back like 8 years and remember going to see it in my theater experience.
Is it that old?
It came out in 2013.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they did a good job of placing the actors who were real well known at the time in that trailer to balance out, because Channing Tatum was in that film. Mm-hmm. And every time I think of Channing Tatum, I don't think of, oh my gosh, this is a really skilled actor, and that's probably unfair to him. But
you're not incredibly wrong either.
Yeah. So when they had Jude Law show up in the film, who I have a lot of regard for, that was another thing that saved it. I'm like, well, how can Channing Tatum pull off this pretty serious film? But when I saw this, the additional cast members, it was like, okay, no, I gotta see it.
Speaking of Channing Tatum, I've always loved that Hateful Eight left him completely out of the trailer. So you had no idea he was even in the movie. And it's a hell of a surprise when you finally see him.
Which movie?
The Hateful Eight.
Oh. I've seen this
movie a number of times, and I don't remember him at all.
See, there you go. Channing Tatum is definitely in the movie, and he's a very crucial part of that movie. And his appearance is rather sudden and out of nowhere. So if you would have known going in, there's no surprise because you're looking for him the whole time. But they left him completely out of the trailer.
See, that's smart.
Mm-hmm. One that I freaking love. This is probably one of my favorite trailers ever, and I swear it's not just because we're going to talk about Army of the Dead later, and it happens to be a Zack Snyder movie. But the Watchmen trailer had Smashing Pumpkins. The beginning is the end is the beginning, and had this visual look from the movie itself, which I really hadn't seen done before in that manner, especially where it was bringing comic book pages to life, like he does, and I mean, 300, you could put that trailer in here as well. There's just something about his movies that I think lend themselves well to trailers. But that Watchmen trailer specifically just absolutely sold me. It was a mixture of the visual style and the song, and that combination just created like an entire world of excitement. And you get Rorschach saying, and the world said, save us. And I reply, no. And it hits every note you need to want to see that world, in my opinion. Whether you like the movie or not, that's on you. But the trailer itself was one of my favorite trailers of all time, because I couldn't remember being more stoked. Other than probably Phantom Menace, honestly, at the time. There wasn't much that I've been more stoked for than that Watchmen trailer. And
they blurred out the blue man's part pretty well in the trailer, yeah. Unlike the movie.
There's no blue dong in the trailer. There's no. You'd need 3D for that puppy. They just didn't have the technical prowess for that.
Oh, you notice it in the movie itself, but somehow in the trailer they are really smart about the angle that they use.
Oh, I meant to mention when you were talking about teasers and how you like the teasers earlier, Christy. Mm-hmm. It popped in my head, and then I forgot to come back to it. But originally, there was an Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and which is obviously one of my favorite movies. I've talked about it more than enough. But they had a teaser trailer when I was a kid. They never showed anything from the freaking movie in it. It's just like this plane flying around and the narrator rattling off literally the names and filming locations. That's all it was.
How obscure.
It really
That's so
was. And then it ends with Harrison Ford in his Indy hat saying, trust me, that's the whole trailer. And I literally pissed myself, I think, as a kid when that first came out. I'm like, I was so stoked. And it shows you nothing. And it's so kind of pretentious because it's like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Harrison Ford. They're filming in Hong Kong. They're filming in all of this place. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Trust me, that's the trailer. And I was pissing myself with excitement. I don't know why, but I was. That trailer would bore the shit out of everybody today. But for whatever reason, back in 1983, it was before 1984, that got me so stoked. So absolutely stoked.
Another trailer similar to that, for a movie that you and I both don't like, is the trailer for The Shining. It just had text on the screen. Yeah. And it didn't really show you anything except the red door, if I remember correctly. I hate the movie. But it's interesting to me.
Good trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jaws, the original. Go watch the original trailer. It's just doo-dum, doo-dum. It's just the score, and then the ominous narrator that was the movie trailer guy for every movie trailer up until like 92 or something. Just saying, hey, there's something's happening in Amityville. People are getting eaten or whatever, and it's very, very mild and obscure. You don't see anything, and it's still a really terrifying show. Alien. I think Jennifer Miller in her Facebook group mentioned Alien. Alien, I don't think has any dialogue at all. And if you go watch that trailer, it's terrifying kind of, because it really does sets the mood completely for what you're about to watch. It can be done. Studios is what we're saying. It can be done.
Independence Day had a good trailer, didn't they?
Yes. Independence Day hit that sweet spot because it was totally ripping off V, which is one of my favorite TV miniseries. Not series. The series sucked, but the miniseries were great. And it had the discs flying over the different cities, and it's like, well, what's going to happen? Then the White House blew up. Freaking amazing. We're like, wow, you just blew up the White House. This is going to get legit.
You bring up a question, though, that I'm curious about, because you mentioned with the Jaws, I think it was, trailer, where there's narration, and there's not a lot of narration in theater trailers anymore, movie trailers in general. It used to be coming to a theater near you, and the whole time they would narrate the whole thing, and now it's just moments from the film and a score and going back and forth between that. Do you guys miss there being like a really proper narrator?
I don't know. When I think about it, I think about it was what the in the 90s it was the same guy's voice. So Aaron, I think maybe if it was a different guy when you were talking about, there was another guy that was really well known for all the movie trailers, right?
Yeah.
And in the movie The Holiday, every time that she was thinking about something, the narrator would pop in and narrate her life. And so, I don't know, it's that era of trailers. And I'm not sure if I miss it or not. I think it was like overplayed at the time, but if they did it here and there now, it probably wouldn't be bad.
I feel like I thought it was probably cheesy at the time. And if you go back and watch them now, I'm sure they're going to come across pretty cheesy. But if I have to pick between a narrator and all you see visually is the water moving and you hear the Jaws theme song and hear narrator saying, Amityville, holy shit, look out, people. And then to cut to what the Jaws trailer would be today, which is the shark on the frickin' boat eating Quint. I'll take the narrator every day.
Absolutely.
I would much rather have the surprise for me personally.
Yeah, they were much more clever about trailers some time ago. And I don't know what changed, because you would think that they would be more clever considering there's been a decline in theater attendance. So you'd think that they would try to do different things to get them enticed and bringing them in.
Well, I think they are by giving more of the movie away. Like they feel like that's what they got to do to bring people in. I don't think they're right, but I think that's what they
I was
think.
going to say, but if you listen to audiences, they get frustrated with that. And even people who show up in the middle of the trailers, they're obviously not invested in the trailers that are happening before their prime movie anyway. So it just feels like they're doing it with no real justification anymore.
Yeah, it's like, here, I'm going to quote Kyle Nolan from our Facebook group. My perfect movie trailer would be a blank screen with the film's title and release date, no scenes or plot description. Okay, that part, a little ridiculous, but I get what you're saying. Like, the less, the better. And I think most people would agree with that. So I don't know why studios don't see that as more reasonable to go and have a little bit less of the movie in the movie trailer and just give us more of a reason to see it, to want to see it for ourselves, to experience.
For the blockbusters, perhaps they can't sell as much merchandise leading up to the release of the movie if they don't, if they feel like they can't show like the certain character that's going to be in there that they want to really make a lot of money off of.
That's a good possibility. Consumerism and capitalism ruling everything.
Well, any other trailers before we wrap this topic up?
I have 5 more. So.
Oh, dear God, woman.
The last trailer I want to mention that I got really excited about was The Commuter. Because that was a daddy-daughter movie. And so when my dad is in town, I'm always keeping my eye out on what's a good movie that the two of us could share together that I might not necessarily want to watch with someone else, right? I want that to be a unique experience that I'm going to have with him. The Commuter ended up disappointing me a little bit, but the trailer got me so excited. I couldn't wait to take my dad to that. So that's the last trailer that I remember for him, because we typically watch like the crime movies, and like Bad Boys for Life and those types of like action, but different than like the action that I watch with the kids. Those are more the Marvel or the DC's, stuff like that. And it was just interesting when because it posed the question, like, would you do it? I'm pretty sure was in the trailer itself. It made you start to think, like, would you actually do something for a large sum of money? But they did it in such a way that was unique to that movie and not, done over and over again.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a good trailer. I do remember that. Movie was still decent too, but the trailer really did convey what you're saying. So I get what you're saying. Yeah.
The movie pacing they didn't nail the end of the movie, was my only complaint with it. It was good, but it wasn't great.
All right. Amanda, can you get through these quickly?
I will. So the next one is Kill Bill. We talked about Tarantino and how great those trailers are. Kill Bill was one that just is, I mean, it's insane, but it doesn't even get close to the insanity of the actual film, the entirety of the film. And I just thought it was fantastic. And of course, he's always got a great soundtrack to pair. So it was wonderful for that. Another one is Deadpool. I mean,
oh, man,
how do you argue with that one? That one was incredible.
Deadpool had some of the best trailer/marketing of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Their entire marketing plan in general was fantastic.
Ryan Reynolds should get a special award for that. I think he did, actually. I think he won some kind of advertising award.
Did he?
Yeah, it's just
hilarious.
Magical. The stuff that they kept doing on social media all the way up to the release.
Yeah,
I hope he got 50% of the cut from that movie.
It was brilliant. Another one is A Star is Born. I remember watching the trailer, and every single time that Lady Gaga would begin singing, I would get chills on my arms. I would have goosebumps and everything. So it was just insane to experience that multiple times over and over watching the trailer. And then my last two are horror related. They didn't live up to the film's potential based on the trailer, but the trailers were so good that I was like, I cannot miss this. And the first one is Hereditary. I just thought this is going to be brilliant. This is going to be amazing. And quite honestly, I thought it was a fantastic film until the last 3 minutes. And then the second one is Us. I just thought it was so unique and clever, and the way the trailer was done was just really exciting.
I'm really disappointed you didn't mention The Dark Knight, because that was a pretty fantastic trailer.
That is a really good trailer.
It gives that hint of the Joker without really showing you what he did in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you really just get a taste, and it really gets you psyched to see what the hell is Heath Ledger doing. What is he about
That's a
ready
really
to do
great
with
one.
his role?
You're right.
Yeah, that trailer was memorable. I remember being really excited for that movie to come out, even before he passed away.
I really think that trailer is what elevated, because the first Batman Begins, I think, made like $200 million in the U.S., and then Dark Knight made $500 million in the U.S. Like, it took such a leap forward. It almost more than doubled the previous movie. And I think a lot of that has to do with, yes, the first movie was well received, but just Heath Ledger. And the marketing was so good around his reinvention of the Joker and making the Joker a terrifying character. I think that's really what led to the huge box office that came with that movie. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hollywood Outsider Battle Royale. The rules are very simple. We take a specific topic and we break it down to the 8 best in that category. We resort to Ho North and Ho South, and we have 4 players all together. Each person gets 2 picks for the greatest of all time in that specific topic, and then we keep voting until we have 1 complete winner. That's right. We start at 8, we end at 1, and that will be the greatest in the entire known Ho universe. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Hollywood Outsider Battle Royale. This is our TV Doctor Battle Royale. This is the renewed appreciation of first responders like doctors and nurses. So in their honor this week, we're debating who is the best medical doctor on TV, because those are kind of like real doctors. As seems to always happen on our polls, Doctor Who made an appearance. So for all of you out there who voted for him, I applaud your dedication, but he did not fit the bill for best all-time TV doctor with an actual degree in medicine, well, an actual fictional degree in medicine. Still, we are giving him props for his doctorate in timesy whoopsie daisy because John demands it. In fact, if you saw our picture on our website, he insisted on putting way too much Doctor Who in our graphics. But
Yeah, because I would have totally used Doctor Who for both my choices.
But he's not a doctor.
He is the doctor.
Okay. You know, I've seen a lot of things on Pornhub where the doctors are there. Does that count as a doctor if he just, shows up for an exam?
Johnny Sins is a hardworking man, and he deserves everything that he gets as far as doctorates go. I can't believe I know the name off the top of my head.
I really am very kind of proud and disappointed all at the same time. Joining us to help
I feel dirty.
Joining us to help us decide who our great doctor is a genuine physician and Patreon supporter, Dr. Stanley Daniel, who you might remember from our TV Antihero Battle Royale back in April. So welcome back, Stan.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. I'm glad to be back. I'm excited to join you guys on this topic. First, I would just want to thank the 3 of you for making one of those good things in the world that has kind of helped me stay buoyed over the past year. So I appreciate everything you guys do. Help me stay entertained and adding a little light in my life. So thanks.
Once again, you're not the one who should be thanking us.
Yeah, right?
I'm just going to work.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to work.
We're thanking you.
Screw that, because here's my picture. I don't know if you actually do surgery. I'm assuming probably not, but I'm just going to go with you are. So you're in surgery and you pop us in the earbuds. I'm just picturing you listening to us while you're doing like open heart surgery or something. That's what I'm going to go
So
with.
we're saving lives.
Yeah, saving lives.
That's how it works. Exactly.
And thanks for everything you guys and you and your staff have done for the past year. I bet the one topic you never want to talk about is that topic.
Well, I think I at least told Amanda when she asked last time what my favorite medical shows were, and I think my answer was I don't watch them. And in general, I don't watch medical shows because it's sort of like being an accountant and coming home and watching an accountant show, I guess. But
the Ben Affleck movie.
Yeah, that's about all I can think of.
But there are a lot of great docs on television that aren't in medical shows. So I do appreciate the entertainment aspect of medicine as well.
How do you feel as a doctor when someone says that Doctor Who should be counted as a doctor?
I don't know. He's kind of a badass doctor.
Yeah.
When I saw when I saw the topic, I think that was the first thing that popped in my head. I'm like, well, no, he's not a real doctor.
Boom.
But it seems like at some point in time, he's probably done some healing. So there might be an argument there. But
there is, but I wasn't going to go with it with
I'd need to see his diploma to make sure.
Is the doctor defined by the credentials or by the experience in the saving of lives?
I think that's a legal question.
If you need credentials, the doctor has the psychic paper that he carries around with you, so he can just flash you whatever you need to see, and all of a sudden you see the credentials. So yeah, I mean, it's possible he's got them.
I think
You're really
Did I just lose
John.
everyone's respect just there? You know what? Screw you guys. Okay, I like Doctor Who.
He's great. I don't watch him. I don't. I mean, he's got the cool phone booth. Is that still? Why is he in a phone booth still? I mean, does he not realize that they don't make those anymore? It seems obvious.
The TARDIS is actually stuck in that form. So at one point it used to take other forms, but it got stuck in that form because, the side story is the production company couldn't afford to keep on making a new thing to make it look like. But with the story within the thing, the TARDIS has its own personality, and it just liked being in the phone booth.
You shouldn't have asked. He had a real answer for you.
Really did not want that at all. I'm really, really sorry that I answered that. But he can get an honorary spot in our poll. So many of our listeners voted for him. Good for you. We voted him out. And by
Don't
we,
say we like
I mean me. I voted him out. So you can write me. My email is amanda@thehollywoodoutsiders.com.
I already had 15 pages of my
No.
argument ready to go as to why he's the best doctor when you were like, oh, by the way, we're not going to let him be. All right, fine.
He's not a medical doctor. It's a medical doctor. Yeah. And also we had to go with specific doctors because otherwise John would pull out some doctor from Sliders or some show that nobody can remember who that doctor is just so he can have somebody different. And
No, there's a couple other ones I found that I remembered that I liked.
I'm sure you did.
I already forgot who they were, but trust me, when I found them, I was like, oh yeah, that person.
Dear God. All right. If you've never heard our Battle Royale, the rules are very simple. We take 8 finalists. We each pick 2 that resonate with us the most. Chosen from the top picks in our whole Facebook group poll. And we vote until only 1 remains. So that's the greatest in the known universe. Because obviously, Doctor Who doesn't count. So let's decide who is the greatest TV doctor of all time. Although Stan kind of feels like he would side with Doctor Who. So if he would have been part of that decision, we might have had Doctor Who, but darn, shucks.
That's just the first doctor that comes to mind. When you hear the word doctor, I want to immediately go to Who or Feel Good or Zhivago. I think it's more of a name recognition sort of reflex than best doctor. Though I watched Doctor Who for a few years and realized that I didn't love Doctor Who. I loved David Tennant, and as soon as he was off the show, then I kind of faded away.
When you say Dr. Feelgood, do you mean the one who makes you feel all right?
He's going to be your Frankenstein.
Yeah, sweet God. I love when someone drops Motley Crue lyrics. All right. Well, remember, all ties will be settled by our Facebook poll, and we go by basically Ho North and Ho South. Amanda and I will be in Ho North, and John and Stan will be in Ho South. So Ho North gets to go first. Amanda, take it away. Who are your 2 candidates for best TV doctor of all time?
All right. My first is Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy.
I'm not sure refusing treatment is what you want to do.
Apparently what I want doesn't matter. It isn't even legally binding. So it's really about what you want, Meredith. You're in charge.
Do you think I like making these decisions for you? Do you think it's fun to get calls from the nursing home asking whether I was planning on giving the nurse who changes you every morning a Christmas tip? But I do it because you have managed to alienate everybody else in your life. And I am the only one. So I have to step up and do it. You want to know why I'm so unfocused? So ordinary? You want to know what happened to me? You happened to me.
Then let me refuse the heart surgery.
No.
Why not?
Because killing my mother is not going to be another thing that happens to me.
Dr. Gray is the chief of general surgery at Gray Sloan Memorial Hospital. The show now has 17 seasons, if you can believe it.
God.
It's not going away anytime either.
It's like a residency.
She is the winner of the Harper Avery Award, a fictional award where surgery is the boldest and most fearless of the healing arts, and the Harper Avery Award celebrates those who have destroyed obstacles, altered the direction, and invented the future of how we are to live and heal and thrive. The surgeons in that room are redefining medicine for generations to come. Dr. Gray originally actually declined this award because of who the original award was named after, and actually created a huge storm where it was renamed to the Harper Avery Award, because the original award that it was named after this guy who was sexually assaulting women. So that came out, and she actually changed that among all of her other things, all of the other things that she does and lives that she saves. The actress herself, Ellen Pompeo, has been nominated for Golden Globes. She's had 16 other wins, 17 nominations. The show itself has had 2 Golden Globes wins and 232 nominations. The reason people like Meredith Grey is because she is relatable. She is a doctor that cares most about her patients. She tries to stay in line with what the rules and procedures are, and she only goes outside of it if it's absolutely necessary to save the life of a patient. She's always putting herself in harm's way. She literally put her hand on the top of a bomb that was inside of a patient's body, so that way everybody else could escape. And she literally almost died. She has done some of the most ridiculous things, taking the plot points aside. As a doctor, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but Stan, maybe you can speak to this. If you were in surgery and somebody had a bomb in their chest, would you be like, oh, let me take that over?
Slowly.
Yeah, you wouldn't try to still save that patient. You'd be like, well, this is a lost cause.
Feels like a bomb squad call. Yeah.
They were waiting for the bomb squad. So anyway, that is my first, is Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy. My second is Gregory House from House.
On the other hand, we don't really know anything about schizophrenia, so maybe it is connected.
Well, schizophrenia explains one mystery, while you're so fascinated by a woman with a bump in her leg. It's like Picasso deciding to whitewash a fence.
Thanks, I'm more of a Leroy Neiman man. And it is only about the DVT. She's 38 years old.
Right,
she
solve this one and you're on your way to Stockholm.
We don't even know how to treat it. Come on, fumigation of the vagina?
A little louder, I don't think everyone heard you.
2,000 years ago, that's how Galen treated schizophrenics. The Marcus Welby of ancient Greece.
Well, clearly you're not interested.
Oh, I'm interested. I'm interested in how voices in the head could be caused by malposition of the uterus.
Is there a better place for it?
Now what do we got? We got lobotomies, rubber rooms, electric shocks. My, that Galen was so primitive.
Where are you going?
I'm going to see the patient. That all-important human connection. Thought I'd give it a whirl.
He is a doctor and head of diagnostic medicine. He's also a little bit of a sarcastic asshole, which probably goes back to his upbringing, and his antisocial behavior goes back to not having friends and having very dominating parents. He went to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, where he was in the pre-med program, maintaining an excellent GPA and eventually getting a perfect score on his MCAT. I don't know if that's really a thing, if people really get a perfect score, but this guy did it. And despite getting caught cheating, he continued at another university, repeating his final year of med school. I think that speaks to how much they see potential in this guy. House has won 2 Golden Globes with another 55 wins and 140 nominations, but Hugh Laurie himself has won 2 Golden Globes, 1 Screen Actor Guild Award, and dozens of nominations for his portrayal. He is a doctor that people come to when they have the most obscure diseases and nobody can get a diagnosis, and he's the guy they go to figure it out. He himself has been misdiagnosed, leading to an issue with his leg, and so that's why he's so passionate about helping people. So of those 2, Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy and Gregory House from House, who is your first pick here, Stan?
Oh, so Amanda, this is a really tough choice because I've never watched either of these shows. So I watched the pilot of Grey's Anatomy. I was like a late year medical student, and I watched the first episode, and I was like, well, this show's just not for me. And I never came across House, but I've watched a few episodes, and Hugh Laurie is amazing. I figured that these two folks would be amongst the choices, so did a little research, and it seems that Meredith Grey is a patient more than she's a doctor, or at least as often. It seems like she has donated part of her liver, has been in a coma a couple of times. At some point, she probably should have just retired.
Yeah.
And Dr. House, I looked that he is it said on his Wikipedia page that he's a board certified diagnostician.
Yes.
So I'm
it sounds like that doesn't really exist.
It is not something that I am familiar with. Like I said, I will not claim to know everything, but that's one I've never heard. It said he was also did 2 residencies or fellowships in nephrology and infectious disease, which are obviously real things. Very, it's a strange combination. I don't know any double certified nephrologist and infectious disease specialist.
So you're judging him, is what you're telling me.
No,
now.
He seems a bit like a sociopath.
You're probably not wrong.
Cheating.
No, you're not wrong.
If he
You're
actually cheated in medical school, that's a tough one to get past. And I understand that he's had so many issues and probably generated a lot of patient and staff complaints. He is a better character from what I can tell. But as far as a television doctor, I think, Dr. Grey goes above and beyond. So my vote's going to go with Dr. Grey.
Love it. Dr. Peterson, as you have on your Squadcast name, you're not a doctor.
Go to John. I'm still weighing something he said, so go to John.
All right, John, what is your pick between Meredith Grey and Gregory House?
All right, so I've never watched Grey's Anatomy to save my life.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not, but I've watched so much House. I think I've watched that show from beginning to end a few different times, and I can't tell you how much I love listening to the way Hugh Laurie plays that character. I love the way he treats everyone, and I kind of sit there and I'm like, God, I wish I was that kind of asshole to people. Like, House is such a great character, and at the same time, I look at him and I go, wow, I don't know how more people don't die in that place, because he just does whatever crazy bullshit he wants to do, and he gets away with it. And he gets, if he can get high at the same time, it makes it even better. So that's why I'm going with Meredith Grey. Has to be the better doctor.
Wow.
But you're surprised, Amanda.
It seems like the question here is, who would you feel more comfortable going to as a patient, Dr. Grey or Dr. House? And it sounds like, at least for 2 out of the 3 votes here, nobody feels comfortable going to Dr. House.
No, because I don't want to die.
Well, he'll save you eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually.
That's not how my luck works.
Aaron, what is your pick?
Well, it doesn't matter.
No, but
Here's the truth. I don't like Grey's Anatomy. I think it's a horrible show. It's so melodramatic. It drives me insane. Even when McDreamy was on it.
fair enough.
But we're trying to pick the best TV doctor. And as much as I love watching House, I find House to be a terrible doctor. Number one, people always forget, like, he tries 4 or 5 things that go wrong before he actually gets to the right diagnosis. I don't want that many things jacking with my system before I find the right one out. I want to go to a doctor who can get it usually on the first or second try. So that's a problem. Plus, he's high as a kite. Plus, he breaks all the rules. For TV doctor, I want someone who I feel comfortable with, has a decent bedside manner. Doesn't have to be great, but a decent bedside manner. And is just not an asshole. So Meredith Grey moves on. And I'm sure there's people screaming at the radios right now, but think about it.
The radios.
Well,
Yeah,
whatever
after
they
3 or
listen
4
to.
things going completely wrong, you'd be leaving the hospital going, "Thank you very much. I really appreciate the way you helped me. My radio career is going to go great now."
So now we move on. That'll be offending someone. We're going to move on to our second pick because Meredith Grey moves on to the next round. And that's my 2 choices. So my first one is Dana Scully from The X-Files.
Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials? Logically, I would have to say no. Given the distances needed to travel from the far reaches of space, the energy requirements would exceed a spacecraft's capabilities.
Conventional wisdom. If you know this Oregon female, she's the 4th person in her graduating class to die under mysterious circumstances. Now, when convention and science offer us no answers, might we not finally turn to the fantastic as a plausibility?
The girl obviously died of something. If it was natural causes, it's plausible that there was something missed in the post-mortem. If she was murdered, it's plausible there was a sloppy investigation. What I find fantastic is any notion that there are answers beyond the realm of science. The answers are there. You just have to know where to look.
Dana Scully is portrayed by Gillian Anderson. Dana Catherine Scully was born on February 23rd, 1964 in Annapolis, Maryland, to William and Margaret Scully, into a close-knit Catholic family, and she attended the University of Maryland. And in 1986, she received a Bachelor of Science degree in physics. Just out of medical school at Stanford University, she was recruited by the FBI. And after 2 years in the Bureau, Division Chief Scott Blevins assigned her to work with Agent Fox Mulder. So why does she stand out as the best TV doctor ever? Because in a series full of fantastical, occasionally ridiculous elements, she often could step back, rationalize, and apply genuine medicine and science to any given scenario. She was always thinking rationally, essentially de-QAnoning Mulder whenever he went too far. She is an intellectual, uncompromising doctor with a wonderful bedside manner who cared about everyone and truly inspired me then and continues to do so now, even as a fictional character. I always thought she's a wonderful role model for many people. There's a reason why everyone in the world, whether they watch The X-Files or not, they know the name Dana Scully. That's my first. My second, Leonard McCoy from Star Trek.
Did you examine? Did you examine Eve? She refused. Oh, come on, you're the doctor. What is it? Is it that we're tired and they're beautiful? And they are. Incredibly beautiful. Are they, Jim? Are they actually more lovely, pound for pound, measurement for measurement, than any other women you've known? Or is it that they just, well, act beautiful?
Now, obviously, my bias is evident. Dana Scully's the best, but very close. And just as well known is DeForest Kelley's portrayal of Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, who was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 2227. So he's not born yet. But just wait, he's coming. He attended the University of Mississippi. In 2266, McCoy was posted as Chief Medical Officer of the USS Enterprise. Bones was cantankerous, passionate, and often the moral compass of the entire crew. He would debate and discuss science, often with Spock, and was no fan of technology over medicine. As a physician, he prefers less intrusive treatment and believes in the body's innate recuperative powers. Bones is also one of the most well-known TV doctors of all time, and who hasn't shouted, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a whatever," at some point in their lives. So that's why Bones is my number 2. So between Leonard McCoy and Dana Scully, who is your pick, John? And I didn't have all the Emmys and Golden Globes, but I know Gillian Anderson won an Emmy, so there you go. John.
Oh, wow, this is a really tough choice because, you know, if I had to choose which doctor I got to look at while I was a corpse on the table, it'd definitely be Dana Scully because that's mostly what she dealt with. At least that's my memory of the show. It was always some corpse she had to dissect.
She did a lot of other stuff too, but that's fair.
Right. Mostly corpses.
No, really, but okay. That's what you recall. Fair enough.
That's what I recall. You know, that's what sticks out in my mind. Now, on the other hand, I once saw Leonard McCoy make a 90-year-old woman walk again by giving her a couple of pills.
Okay. Okay.
I want that kind of like ability in my doctor, so I'm going to go Leonard McCoy.
So you want Jesus in your doctor?
Yeah. That's great.
Well, I'm glad you got some rationality in that. Amanda, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Dana Scully. Now, I get where John's coming from. I get his
do you?
Theory. Well, when we're talking about Dana Scully and he's like, well, was she really, when you think about the other characters that we're comparing to, where they are actively working as a physician, if you will, in whatever capacity. Mm-hmm. And while she wasn't necessarily doing that throughout the entirety of the show, that doesn't negate her being an MD and the capacity, the way that she used it. And I think if we try to limit the scope of what we are considering to be a doctor, then I think that's just a disservice to the characters. So I'm still going to go with Dana Scully.
All right, Stan, you get to make the decision. You're the decider.
So this one actually is a difficult choice. These are two shows that I really like or love. Scully and Mulder might be my all-time favorite TV duo, and Scully was amazing. But I believe she was a pathologist by training, and she actually shouldn't be touching people based on that training. So, Bones, on the other hand,
no, she went to medical school.
Well, sure. That doesn't mean that she should touch patients. It's what happens after medical school that really turns into a doctor. And I might have something to say about that in a minute or two. But Bones, have you guys heard the theory about Spock, Bones, and Kirk, and how they're the id, the super ego, and the ego? And I've read a couple of articles and how Spock and Kirk are the ego and the id, and it's Bones that's sort of the mediator, and he is almost the moral center of the Enterprise in a way, even though he's probably an alcoholic and a curmudgeon.
Well, wouldn't you on that crew?
But he's pretty amazing. And in addition to making a 90-year-old woman walk with a couple of pills, he also cured Chekhov's. I think he had an epidural hematoma with his little tricorder, which that is what I'm waiting on is my tricorder. So is
that the brain bleed that he had from falling on the Enterprise?
I can't remember what he accused the surgeons in the 80s of being the monsters or Neanderthals or something along those lines when they were about.
He's like, what's next? Bloodletting? Leeches?
So obviously I'm going with Bones, even though I do love Scully. She's not somebody you want to treat your sore throat.
Unless you're a corpse, apparently.
See, I understand that, but she still had a training in forensic medicine, and to me,
that means their bodies.
Right, but that doesn't...
She's still a doctor. It's still a doctor.
That doesn't negate her being a doctor and having the understanding and the treatment, even if it is only for the corpses. I mean...
See, this is what's happening, Stan, is that they are now going to try to convince you that they are right.
That the non-doctors know more than the doctor. We're going to be like every patient you've ever had. No, I saw on WebMD that this is a real thing. You need to check this.
Google knows.
Doc, run this test for me now. I need you to check this. Somebody on my Facebook told me you need to run this test for me.
My aunt, who once knew a doctor personally, said I should do this. No, Scully is a great doctor. She's a great pathologist. But I guess it's how I approach this topic on what makes a good TV doctor. And when it came down to it, I thought Scully was more of a badass and a better FBI agent than she was a physician by the rules that I approached our conversation.
Honestly, that's fair. I'm just trying to convince myself, too, because I like her better.
All right, so Bones moves on. Now we go to Ho South. John, you're up first.
All right, so here comes the end of all these written up, well thought out arguments for why somebody's the best doctor. Because, of course, I'm involved. So here we go. My very first doctor that I'm going to bring to this table is going to be John Watson from Sherlock.
I looked you up on the internet last night.
Anything interesting?
Found your website, The Science of Deduction.
What did you think?
You said you could identify a software designer by his tie and an airline pilot by his left thumb?
Yes. And I could read your military career in your face and your leg and your brother's drinking habits in your mobile phone.
How?
Now, you may be asking yourself, is John Watson a doctor? And we all forget, because he spends most of his time chasing after Sherlock and making sure Sherlock's okay, that he was a doctor before we met him in the show. He was an army doctor, and he saved very many lives throughout that period. Now, as the show progressed, he and Sherlock became more of a partnership where he was able to help Sherlock through a lot of his cases. But hey, you know what? Being a crime consultant doesn't pay the bills, so John Watson had to go back to work at these clinics, and he had to go back to doctoring people. And you know what? He was able to do that and solve crime and be Sherlock's tether to reality, and did it all with the grace and strength of a man who just knows that he is living with a psychopath who likes to heal things, like likes to solve crime. So that's my first pick. Now, my second pick is probably, if I were to ever become a doctor, because, now is a good time for me to make these sort of life-changing decisions to go back to school or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the doctor that I would like to be. And that's Hawkeye Pierce from MASH.
When I was 7, Billy saved my life.
He did? How?
When I was 7 years old, we were on a pond, in our town, and we went fishing together in the middle of the pond. We borrowed a rowboat, and I fell out of the boat, and I caught a lungful of water, and I panicked, and I sank right to the bottom, and Billy pulled me out, saved my. I almost drowned.
You must have been terrified.
I blacked out. When I woke up, I smelled like a wet burlap sack.
Thank God for Billy.
Oh, I'd be dead if Billy hadn't helped me into the water.
He helped you into the water?
No, he helped me out of the water. He helped me into the boat. What's the difference? Either way.
No, it's important.
It's hard to come up with all the right words to describe why Hawkeye Pierce is the best doctor on television. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Here's the deal, Sally. The thing that every doctor on television wants to be, besides, as pretty as Dana Scully or as useful as John Watson, is they want to be Hawkeye Pierce. He is the mold in which every smart-ass, way too good for his own good doctor on television was built after. He was able to not only save lives during the Korean War, but he also wisecracked, he also drank, and he also did just about everything he wanted to do because he was just that good, that smart, and that funny. And that's why he's my second doctor. Besides Doctor Who, of course, because he needs to be in here somewhere. So, Aaron, you get to go first.
Wow, that's actually, it's an unbelievably hard choice for me because John Watson is one of my favorite characters in all of literature. But I'm going by the show, right? I'm going by Sherlock, which he's a very capable doctor. He's a good doctor. I don't think he's blowing the doors off by any means. If you went by the books, it would be John Watson in a heartbeat. But there's a thing that I appreciate from Hawkeye Pierce, and I'm trying to remember, I don't remember the specific details because MASH is an older show. It's been a while since I watched it. But, my mother was a nurse. I've said this many times. And the one thing that I always appreciated from her was her selflessness. Now, a lot of doctors I've met are not so much as selfless as I have found many nurses to be. But I have met many doctors that were completely selfless, and they gave up riches to basically care for people because that was their priority. And Hawkeye Pierce, and I can't remember the specifics, but I remember that he had a great opportunity and he decided to stay on the front lines because he wanted to treat soldiers because he cared more about them than clout. And to me, that is the defining characteristic of a health giver. I don't want someone who's just trying to get rich. I want someone who cares about people, who cares about what's right, who cares about healthcare. And that's what he did. So even though I love John Watson, I think Hawkeye Pierce is mine.
Okay. Amanda?
Well, this is going to be succinct. I'm going to go with Hawkeye.
Okay. Stanley.
Okay. We'll probably make it a clean sweep here. I love John Watson, but in the show, I think I remember seeing him treat one patient in the clinic. I don't remember anything besides one, but Hawkeye was amazing.
It seemed like he was more interested in banging the other doctor. So.
Hawkeye was amazing. His everything about him, I loved. I remember watching that show in syndication, a million years ago, and his just general attitude. He was suave with his bathrobe and bathtub martini. Was just a great image, and he seemed to take his life fairly. He had a fairly cavalier attitude about life, but he took his role as a physician and a surgeon very seriously. And that's something that I can get on board with. So make it a clean sweep for Hawkeye.
Great. All right.
Woohoo. Well, Stan, now we come to the doctor himself. Who are your two choices?
My two picks. Can we go ahead and agree that these are the expert picks? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if there's an expert at this table, it's not the three of us.
I mean, I want to be clear. I have researched WebMD an extraordinary amount, and I think that should count toward a degree.
Well, and your mom's a nurse, so
exactly. See, it counts. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've told people, "Look, I know my mom is a nurse," and they've actually went, "Oh, that makes sense." Okay.
Yeah. It's crazy what things carry weight. I read a book about farming, so I'm a farmer now.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So I didn't come from a medical family. I didn't have any doctors or nurses in my family. And somehow, like, becoming a doctor was one of those things that I thought was a good path for me, even when I was a kid. And I bring this up just to say that I think some of my early influences were probably TV doctors. And I've realized over the years that a couple of these have had a bit more of a profound impact than I'd care to admit. When I started looking at it for the podcast,
That scares me, knowing one of your picks.
Same.
Oh, no. These are these.
Like, what is the level of influence from these?
How much are we talking?
These are the two top docs, and I'll explain why. But thanks for indulging me, because these are fairly personal choices. And my first choice is Dr. Mark Green from ER.
It's up under the nail. She won't even let me near it.
Can I look?
I don't want a shot.
No shots. I promise. Let's play a game. Close your eyes, okay?
Okay.
What do you see?
The sky.
What's up there?
Orion's belt.
Orion's?
He couldn't beat the scorpion, so he jumped into the sea.
Really?
Artemis put him in the sky where the scorpion never gets him.
I didn't know that. There. That didn't hurt, did it?
Is it over?
It's all done. Thank you, Katie.
What did I do?
You just became my very last patient.
So I don't know if you guys recall what a phenomenon the show ER was.
Absolutely.
Sure do.
Oh, it was huge. The medical drama had been around for eons. It was one of the oldest types of shows, but ER brought this like realism and action and horror and adrenaline, and it was amazing. And I was in college, and me and a handful of other pre-med nerds watched it religiously. There were about 6 of us. Half of us became ER docs. And that is,
wow.
I've always found that a fascinating thing. Was it something in our personality that led us to like the show, or were we influenced by, watching the happenings at County General? So ER was based on Michael Crichton's experience when he was a medical student at Cook County Hospital. And I actually had the opportunity to work a month there in my 4th year of medical school. It wasn't anything like the show. There was no Juliana Margulies either. Yeah. So, obviously in the early days of the show, when I watched it religiously, it was George Clooney that was the breakout, and probably the coolest TV doctor. But Anthony Edwards as Mark Green,
definitely the cutest.
Well, he's the heart. He is the heart of the show. And I think
he's the heart throb. Yeah.
Who couldn't love Goose as Dr. Green? He sort of embodied everything that I respect in a good doctor. He was caring. He was compassionate. The way he carried himself with quiet confidence, humility. He was a good leader in the department. He made difficult decisions even when it didn't benefit him. He was very practical and used common sense, which is something that is often lacking in healthcare. And as an ER doctor, he was the calm in the midst of chaos, sort of the quiet eye of the storm in the midst of a hurricane. I watched this show for years and years. I fell off toward the end, but the 2 moments of Dr. Green that I recall, one, and I looked this up and couldn't find it. It was this small moment, and it was like a secret shopper patient where a man had like put something in his nose or his ear. He had done something sort of strange, and Dr. Green had a simple, cost-effective, effective treatment. And the guy was just like doing this to himself to give Dr. Green a grade to see if he did unnecessary testing or calling unnecessary consultants. And, you know, being the practical, level-headed guy he was, Dr. Green passed. I don't know why that stuck with me, but it's like, that's cool. You know, a good doctor should be able to do that. And the other time was something happened in the hospital. There were no beds. There were 1,000 people in the waiting room. And he just took it upon himself. He grabbed a couple of staff and some supplies, and he just went and treated people in the waiting room and made a point of like, he's not filling out paperwork. He's not doing charts. He's not doing all these things that would probably get him fired, but he was just going out and taking care of people. And that just was such a moving thing to see. And, you know, there are many times working in busy emergency departments where I would just love to be able to go out and just take care of people and not worry about all the extraneous stuff. So, like I said, I watched Dr. Mark Green before I went to medical school, and he was the doctor that I wanted to be. My second pick is Dr. Perry Cox from Scrubs.
I mean, Dr. Dorian was fine, but he was no better than any other doctor.
For the record, he was the best that ever came through this dump. John Dorian was the first and only doctor I ever met who cared as much as I do. And you can forget about him being just an exceptional physician. Because the fact of the matter is, he's a damn exceptional person. That's why people gravitated to him. That's why I did. He was my friend.
Thank you, God. That was beautiful.
Well, God, no.
So again, this was a pretty personal time when I watched this show. It had been on for years by the time I was in residency, and it was the first time that I had cable. So I was able to watch and DVR old episodes on TBS. And I started watching it, and I found that Scrubs was eerily similar to what I was experiencing. I mean, I was in the same shoes as JD and Turk, and I really did relate to those guys, but I wasn't as neurotic as JD, and I wasn't as cool as Turk, but it was Dr. Cox that inspired me. Where Dr. Green was the doctor that I wanted to be, Dr. Cox is probably a little closer to what I've become. And I don't think this is a bad thing. So Dr. Perry Cox, he was the chief attending at Sacred Heart Hospital. He's played by John McGinley. I actually reached out to a couple of friends and colleagues and told them that I was doing this podcast. I was pretty excited. And Dr. Cox was on all of their lists. So 3 out of 4 doctors polled also voted for Perry Cox.
Wow, really? What about that research and
We
data?
gotta take a pause for that. That was well played. Well played.
One of my friends described him as having a lot of edge with a soft, gooey center. And I think that pretty much sums up Dr. Cox. He was cynical, abrasive. He was abusive. He was fairly narcissistic. But beneath what ended up being a very self-manufactured hard shell, he actually embodied all of the same things as Mark Green. He was intelligent, he was compassionate, caring, he was a leader, and he was practical. And he did all this with some of the best one-liners and rapid-fire rants, in my opinion, in television history. Some of his spiels that he would go off on, apparently McGinley was given the lines either the night before or the day of, and still, came up with this magical character. And his whistle. Everybody, I want to be able to whistle like that in the department, but I think I would just get laughed at. So, throughout the show, he started to lower his defenses a little bit. He became a little more vulnerable. He had a crisis of confidence in the later seasons, and he became a little more human and happier by the end. His most memorable scene was one not where he was going off on JD or treating patients, but when he was teaching, and he was allowing the residents to come up with a difficult diagnosis and treatment on their own, and he's sort of sitting in the background, quietly rooting them on. And having taught medical students and residents and helped train the next generation, occasionally I've had the chance to do some teaching, and it's hard to step back and let somebody come up with things on their own when you know the answer. And that was, that was the thing that stood out for Dr. Cox. He was a good teacher. So ultimately, I think I would have gladly subjected myself to his abuse in order to learn from Dr. Perry Cox. So that's my spiel. Amanda, who's your pick?
Well, initially, when I was thinking about these two, before you gave your overview and really tried to emphasize which one you think should go on based on your poll, I was going to go with Mark Green because I really, really liked ER. I feel like it changed the way medical dramas were done and how, I feel it really set the stage for them to become something that was just normal. Like it became its own genre after that. And I really liked his character because he held strong and didn't let his friendships dissuade what he felt needed to be done at work. He was able to create a line, if you will, even though he knew it would impact his relationships with his friends. But after you described Perry Cox in the way that you did, because I just always saw him as kind of a goofy doctor, I didn't really think about, and that's the way that he's really coming across in the show. But when you think about how fun he is on top of being a genuinely good doctor with a lot of humor, like that's probably the type of person I'd want to be around rather than somebody who's just sitting there. So I'm going to go with Dr. Cox from Scrubs.
All right. Aaron.
I love your spiel. And like most people, I'm going to ignore doctor's advice. And I'm going to go with Mark Green. And the reason for that, it's honestly, it's very personal. I've seen Scrubs many times. I have a friend, Troy, friend of the show, who I constantly, because he swears I need to watch Scrubs every day of every minute, but it's just, I like it, fine, but I don't love it. ER is a show that, like I said, my mom's a nurse, and there weren't many medical shows she would watch with me because for the same reasons as you, Stan. It's like you watch it and it's hard to take it seriously because so often it's just TV, and the other one was what? Quincy. She loved Quincy for whatever reason. She just loved Quincy. So we'd watch that all the time. But ER, she was okay with. She really, and that part of it was George Clooney. That's fair. I don't know who wasn't in love with him, myself included, at that time.
Same here.
Yeah, right?
At that time.
Did that Caesar cut for a while. Just like trying to be that cool. It never worked for me, ever. Not once.
He's like 60 and everybody still likes him.
Yeah. It's because he's handsome.
Yes,
and rich.
he is. Well,
but Mark Green was always the one that I respected and looked up to and wanted as a doctor. I remember actually wanting him as a doctor which at first it was weird because I'm like, that's Goose. That's Goose. Goose died. Goose can't be a doctor. But after I, adjusted, he just became, even though George Clooney stole all of his thunder because he was always the coolest guy on that show, Anthony Edwards was the heart. Like you said, he was the guy that I warmed up to, that I felt for, that I believed cared about every patient that he treated and would do anything to do everything he could for his patient. And I always loved him as a doctor. He's one of my all-time favorites. So definitely Mark Green for me.
All right, John.
Well, this one's a super easy choice for me. I actually just finished a rewatch of Scrubs a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to have to go Perry Cox, because Perry Cox is, if I were sick and in an emergency room someplace, I would want Perry Cox taking care of me, because he's the kind of doctor who would come up, yell at you for all the stupid shit you just did, tell you how he's going to fix you, and then hope to God that you're going to listen to some of the words that he threw at you so that you get, not have to show back up in the hospital again. He always seemed to have like the most heart on that show, the most caring, and JD and Turk were a big selling point of that show, but if it wasn't for Perry Cox, I wouldn't have stuck around as long as I did. So yeah, it's Perry Cox for me.
All right.
3 out of 4 doctors win. So there you go. You can let them know we won. or at least we got to the next round. I don't know if you're going to win. But now we go to the semifinal vote, Ho North, and then we go to Ho South. So Ho North, first up to get to the finalists, we have Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy or Leonard Bones McCoy from Star Trek. Stan, who do you have?
Bones.
John?
Bones.
Amanda?
Meredith Grey.
So I could tie this, but I won't.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Bones is going to the next round. So Bones makes it to the finals. Now we have Ho South. Hawkeye Pierce versus Perry Cox. So MASH versus Scrubs. Who do you got this time? Doc, you can go first. We'll keep going to you first. Stan?
Like I said, Hawkeye was probably an influence on me when I was very young, but it's Perry Cox with a bullet.
All right. I think I know which John's going, so let's go ahead and get this over with. John?
This is tough because as much as I love Perry Cox, we don't get Perry Cox without Hawkeye Pierce. So Hawkeye Pierce.
Oof. Ooh. Amanda?
I am going with Hawkeye. Disappointing all those doctors.
Oh, finally I can make it right. I'm going against the doctor's advice and going for Hawkeye Pierce. Boom.
3 out of 4 podcasters agree. No, Hawkeye is a great choice. He would have been in my top if it not been for Mark Green and Perry Cox.
That's fair. That is fair. All right, so now we have the finals, and I'm going to come to you last on this one, Doctor. In case there's any ties or anything, you can break them. All right, so we have Hawkeye Pierce versus Bones McCoy. John.
Oh, this is such a tough thing because if I go one way, then I'm only voting for myself. And if I go the other way, then I'm voting for not the right doctor. So I'm going to go Hawkeye Pierce.
Which one? Is that the right doctor? I mean, vote for the right doctor. That's what
I just said, Hawkeye Pierce.
Okay. Amanda?
I'm going with Hawkeye.
Oh, goodness. I'm going with, God, I was kind of hoping to make it exciting so Stan could decide something, but yeah, it's Hawkeye. I mean, I think, yeah, I got to go with Hawkeye. I really do.
You really messed that up for him.
Yeah. Stan, why don't you go and I'll go after you.
He'll just fix it in post.
I might change my mind. You never know. What do you got?
Yeah, no, as soon as the finalists were mentioned, I went one way and now I'm going the other, and I think I just said that Hawkeye would have been there if not for my 2 picks, but I actually think I'm going to go with Bones.
Part of me wants to change it, but I won't. It's Hawkeye Pierce. It's Hawkeye Pierce. So 3 out of 4.
Did I just win one of these?
I mean, I don't really. Is it you win or does Hawkeye Pierce win?
I feel like it's more about the doctor, the character that wins rather than the presenter.
Wait a minute here. Whenever you guys win, it's your win. But so when it's my win, it's the character's win. Is that what I'm hearing?
It was really Hawkeye's patience that won. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh.
Right. Fine.
Dun, 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 dun.
I think I hear the helicopter.
I get that joke. The whole winner of the TV Battle Royale is Hawkeye Pierce. Congratulations, Hawkeye. I don't know if he's... Why would he listen? Alan Alda's got better things to do, I would think, than listen to this podcast.
He's all like, what? You talking about me? What?
You never know. Maybe he's one of the people that Stan talked to.
He's not a real doctor.
You could have still pulled him.
The actual author of... In some of my research, I found this out. The actual author of MASH, the novel, hated Alan Alda's depiction of Hawkeye.
What?
Because Hawkeye was... Yeah, he was too smarmy, too much of a smartass, and it was just too much of like all the wrong features that the author wanted to give Hawkeye. If it wasn't for Alan Alda, we wouldn't have that character the way he is.
You know, I got to say something like this is where I am going to drop my mom was a nurse because I was around hospitals growing up for most of my life. So Stan, you attest if this is true. Most doctors I knew were a little smarmy or a little sarcastic because it's deflection, because you're constantly dealing with nonstop stress. So you're making jokes or asides just to keep things light. I mean, is that a fair assumption?
It's 100% true. I mean, not every doctor, but I work in emergency departments, and everyone has extraordinarily dark senses of humor, and it's all gallows humor. It is a method of just dealing with what you see every day, even when it's not like an episode of ER. It's heavy, it's serious stuff, and so to make light of it is just a defense mechanism.
Yeah, the ECMO nurse I know has a weird preoccupation with fisting. I don't know why, but it's like his jokes always go there.
Okay.
What?
Only you, John.
What?
Like, seriously, only you would bring up fisting when we're talking about medical, saving lives, okay?
He started the episode name-dropping porn stars and then...
De-escalated quickly.